Now live to part 4 of the Narcissist versus the Empath. Now you guys are probably wondering, why is there so many parts? Because there's so many good topics and feedback that we're getting from everyone, and then we want to make sure that we always pass along what we have learned so that you guys don't have to pay the price. And my returning guest, my sis, Miss Rhonda T. Payne. All right, so I just want to make sure that the feedback is public and we can get going. Now, today's topic is going to be do impact. And we and part 3 we went into like why do we stay in situations that we know that we're not supposed to? Why do we keep attracting the same kind of people? Why do we allow ourselves to think that we can save them? And so one of the things is that we talked about is that ego, that pride. Sometimes, well, I'm not gonna say all the time, that pride and ego is the reason why we hold on. And so it leaves a nice bruise. So we're going to go straight into what you want to take over yesterday about the story of Samson and your revelation and how you got out of your situation and how your healing process began.
Right. Okay. Well, when we start thinking about with empaths and superpowers, it's not necessarily like we're talking about like we're the X-Men or something like that. It's just certain things that we have. One thing we have is just like sometimes it's just this knowing. We don't have to like where everybody else is logically trying to break things down. Sometimes we just know. So what happens is it helps us be able to navigate ourselves through things, not because we're looking at all the details where everybody's trying to logistically put things together. Sometimes we just have this knowing. Then another thing too, we have the ability as to where we're good listeners, even though sometimes we talk, but listening is this. When somebody leaves you after you've talked to them, you as an empath maybe feel drained because you give out. But when they leave you, they feel so good because they're like, you heard me. You may not have said anything, but you were able to tune in.
You're the only one that understands. You're like,
yes. So, but guess what? I did not know that everybody's not like that. So when I choose to go and tell all my business to certain people, it just so happened to be is like, oh, you going through that? Oh, man. Oh, wow. What do you mean? And I'm always like, well, I want people to see me like I see them. You know what? I give up everything, so you have that as to where you can reel people in. You have the ability to rejuvenate or bounce back, with not a lot of extra help or anything like that. It's like almost like you go all the way down and you have a rechargeable battery on the inside of you, which is something that's, everybody doesn't have. So you got all of these,
like the good point that you're making is that saying that sometimes we need their happiness to be recharged.
That's exactly it.
Because we know, according to them, we're the only ones that can make them happy. So it's like, wait, I have this responsibility to all of a sudden recharge you and be there for you. And so you fall for that and thinking like, well, I'm the one. I'm the one. And like and almost to the point where you will stay depressed until they get back up and you're like, hey, you know what? Life's good again.
Exactly. And when you start looking at that, the first thing you do is you neglect your own self because you're busy trying to, because you also feel emotions. You can walk into a room. I had some business I had to take care of today. And for the past 12 years, I've been going to the same place to take care of some of the same business, literally using the same person, everything. So I will go back maybe every several years or something. Every time I go in that place, I have the same feeling. Nothing has changed. I've done nothing different. And I was talking to a lady today. I said, insanity is doing the same thing, trying to get different results. So if every time I walk into this place, I feel the same way, I feel the conniving, I feel all this stuff, why should I think I'm going to get anything different than, because I feel it. I don't know. Nobody has shown me anything, but I did not pay any attention all these years. But since we've been doing these talks, I went in today and everything that I looked over for 12 years was like magnified today, like Rhonda. So all of a sudden I had to pull myself back together and like, okay, let me, come home and recharge. I'm being drained, even to the fact that I use the same person. I'm like, no, this is not good. But everybody doesn't have that ability. Just like you look up, some people are highly sensitive, but that doesn't mean that they're a empath. Empaths are highly sensitive, but a person that's highly sensitive, they may be able to just pick up on things or whatever, but that doesn't make them an empath. I think it's 1 to 2% of people in the world are empaths. So you start finding, 1 to 2%. So everybody doesn't have it. So, but this is the thing. When you have a lot of people sometimes that all of a sudden say they have empathetic traits, why they've been around. So say, for instance, if I grew up in a narcissistic home, we already know that there is no everybody has empathy, but everybody's not an empath. So when you're in a narcissistic home, you know that empathetic is not there. Being an empath is not there. But you can come around people that are empaths, and all of a sudden you'll see the results of them and how they're getting certain things done by the way that they're doing it. You will pick up on their habits, and remember, narcissists and people like that are good mirrors.
Yeah.
A lot of people may think, okay, I'm highly sensitive or I'm an empath, but it could be that you just changed the way you were raised because you saw somebody else raised differently. But then if you disconnect from that empath, you no longer have those traits.
I see.
You go back to those traits that you had before you got in contact with the empath. So that's the thing. But going into the story of Samson, this is how I started getting my breakthrough, because we're talking about how empaths get in trouble.
Right. I actually love when you were telling me the other day about this, like your revelation and the version of what you learned about Samson. I was like, oh wow, tell me more.
Oh. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody's trying to call. Okay.
So you were talking about the story of Samson.
Right.
And how we were talking the other day about, you were telling your revelation.
Yeah.
And then
can you hear me pretty good? Because I can't hear you that well. Someone tried to call in, and
I can hear you pretty well.
Okay. And well, let me, and what I'm going to do is I'll tell about the story, then I'm going to move it, and then I'm going to move back. Well, when I went through my situation, I realized after a while that what God had given me, everybody could not do that. So I'm like, I started looking around and I started treating everybody like, well, if I can do this, you can do that. But everybody does not have that ability. So I'm thinking now, wait a minute, I'm going back over my life. I'm going back over some of the things that I've heard from ministers or whatever. Rhonda, others can, but you can't. So I'm hearing all of this stuff, believing that I'm being judged. It's like everybody else can do things, but I can't. I didn't know why, because I had this special gift. And this gift was not for me. It was entrusted to me. This gift was for me to be a blessing to humanity. It was something that was bestowed on me. But with me, I figured that it was just my gift. So when I went through all of these narcissistic, when I went through this narcissistic abuse, and I literally lost the ability to create the things that I was doing beforehand effortlessly. So before that, I can, if I wanted to open a business, if I want to do anything, it was effortlessly. Where people would look like, how did you do that? Well, I don't know. It's effortlessly. I can just do it. So of course, now you get into the fact now your ego is talking, because you can do things that other people are looking at you as like you're special and they can't do it.
Like, I got it. Like that. Yeah. That I got it.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening is with the story, when I got ready to get back on my feet, I started praying, and the Lord gave me the story of Samson. And I remember watching a video of him. It was a movie, and about how it really was with Samson. And Samson, his mother could not have a child, so but God blessed her to be able to have it. But he was called a Nazarite, so he could not cut his hair. And that was a significant part about it. He couldn't drink strong wine, could not cut his hair. And he was dedicated to humanity. The Philistines were always keeping the children of Israel under their thumb. Samson was going to come to revive them, to save them. Like us with humanity. God has blessed us to be able to do something, and we think we got these special gifts to use them for us. So Samson was very cocky. You might as well say he's very cocky because he was overconfident, because he was strong, he was good looking, he had all these advantages. So what it did is it caused a lot of jealousy from people who didn't have it. And one was the Philistine king. And the Philistine king, his job was like a narcissist. He was an extreme narcissist. I want what Samson has. He's destroying our people. He's making fun of us. He can do all these other things or whatever, and we can't. So what ended up happening is the king went on like the narcissists usually do. They went on a quest to make sure they took Samson down. That was his goal, to get next to him, to see what he could do or whatever. So
they started gathering their troops, talk about all these rumors and lies, like, you know what she did, or you know what he did.
And so what he did, he gathered his flying monkeys to do his bidding and go and find out what it took for Samson. What was his secret? What was his secret? And it really was a big secret, but it was no secret. So when Samson realized that he had this ability and people were jealous and they were doing everything, Samson started getting in pride. It says pride comes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. So what ended up happening is Samson no longer thought about the reason he had those powers. So all of a sudden now he's playing games. He's playing games with them now. He's playing with their heads. And they would come in and they would take and get him drunk or something like that and bind him up. Just bind him up, and he'll wake up the next morning and everything, you know. And what happened is this: when you have that special gift, and we were talking about how narcissists will see you, there's a special person named Delilah that showed up. Delilah knew how to love bomb. Oh, come on, Samson, lay your head in my lap. I understand what you're going through. Oh, everything. So she's kind of drawing him in, intimacy. Tell me how you do this. Tell me how you do this. She was mirroring the very thing. She made it seem like she was a good person, but she was a flying monkey. She was set up by the king to find his secret. So eventually what happened is he started pillow talking, told the story of what happened. It's in my hair. I got these locks. If you cut my locks off, you take my strength. Samson told the secret, woke up the next morning, bound up, and he could no longer shake himself. And that's where it was at. I was at. How is it that I could just all of a sudden I do all of this, and then one day I wake up, I can't do it, and I'm literally losing my mind because I can't find out how to get it back. So eventually what ended up happening is Samson ended up locked up. He ended up a slave. They gouged his eyes out, everything. Cut, because he had his hair cut off. The king came in to Samson while Samson was locked up. He said, now, tell me where you got your power from so I can have it. Now, Samson is blind. He's lost everything. God removed the strength from him the whole night. Samson looked up and said, it came from God, like that. So it's like the king walked away sad because he knew he couldn't have it. Eventually, what happened is Samson prayed, give it back to me. It came around as to where that's why I got hair grows back. But like my mom was saying, everybody's hair don't grow back. So, you gotta give it something different. So I can say this with an empath, power comes back.
It does.
It comes back, and it comes back stronger than it was before because you deviated from the mission, but now you understand what the mission, why you were gifted, why you have all of this stuff. So now you understand, and then all of a sudden, Samson ended up going supernova and destroying him and himself and everybody else. So I think you're out of here. Where are you at?
I'm right here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see you there, but yeah, but that's what ended up happening with me. I began to pray. If you could get one, just restore back the power that I had. I promise I'll take and do what I'm supposed to do with what you gave me. So that's kind of where it was at. I can't hear you. Can I just move it right quick? If you can give me like 1 minute.
So
okay.
One of the things that I'll talk while you do, so what you were saying with the story of Samson is that he lost everything. So he thought it was like the end of it, right? So,
all
right. One of the things that I was saying about the story of Samson, like he lost everything. And we always feel like we can't come back from that.
Right.
Because you really do feel like everything that you had and all of a sudden is gone in like pretty much 24 hours. You're like, how did I get here? And you're so mad at yourself because now you start seeing like almost the setup. And and then all of a sudden, like, but there was one thing that you said to me the other day to where like once we realize the setup, right? And once we get over this feeling of stupidity of being used, there was one thing that you said, like one thing that we have to recognize. Obviously, it's not going to be, you're not going to get your power back within 24 hours.
Right. Oh no.
No. But why don't you go ahead and talk about the hair though?
Okay, so I won't say I'm gonna say hair because that was the what's the name that I used, the thing that I used.
Talk about your story.
But power. But what I did is last year, about maybe a couple years before that was when I was in the situation where I was having a nervous breakdown, and nobody knew. It just so happened to be that my mom had sent me had somebody bring me a CD by Bishop T.D. Jakes, and it was talking about, you left your first love. It was talking about the prodigal son. It's noble that you did all this stuff for people because I blessed you to be this, but you forgot me, and you forgot you, and you forgot me in you. So you done did all these nice things for all these people, and a lot of stuff I really didn't tell you to do. You did it on your own, and that's why you're drained, but you forgot to go and reload. So you kept giving out and you forgot to reload. So now you're sitting in the middle of the bed rocking. So eventually what happened is I just started spiraling. I mean, literally the decision making. I had never made decisions that bad. I'm sitting here. I have more lives that I'm responsible for, more responsibility, more everything. I was already at the top of my game the whole night. Mind you, when I first came in contact, it took 6 months for everything that I had worked for all those years to reverse. So for everything in me, my virtue, everything was drained within 6 months. So I didn't realize what I was dealing with. but my power, my hair was gone. And literally, it was a situation with my hair last year. I'm going to tell you about that. But so everything started spiraling, and possessions, the whole nine. You look up. And last year, I just started, before that, I started really praying, but I had to start disconnecting from the very thing that was draining me. Because if you plan on getting yourself back, you cannot be connected to the very thing that's sucking the life out of you while you're doing it. You're going to have to man up and make a decision as to where you know that this is what's draining you. Now, an empath, we know what it is. We know who it is. And we also know how to deal with it. Sometimes we just have that oxytocin. We just have that thing going on.
That addiction.
That shame, that pride. We have all that stuff going on, and we just don't want to make that move. But I had to make a choice. So what I did is I started telling the story. And that was me having to humble myself. Because remember, pride before was how I worked. I worked with pride. But now I've got to humble myself. Let me start telling the story about what really happened to me. And it was so surprising how everybody was like, we never knew. You hit it well. You were so strong. You hit it well, which is not a good thing, because what it was showing that my pride was standing out so much that
it's almost like a shock, right? It's a shock. Like, wait a minute, you mean like, and this is why like none of us want to expose that part, because everyone always assumes that we're doing so well,
right?
And so, and you're like, oh, I can't expose that because everyone assumes that I'm good. So the more that you hold that in, the more it's actually driving you more insane.
It is. Yeah. And what happened is, like, even in the story of Samson, they gouged his eyes. They burned his eyes out, right? His ability to see. So what happened is I could no longer see. My path was no longer clear. Before, I just knew. Now everything is a fog. Everything is a cloud. Everything is second guessing. Everything, and so I'm like, and then you operate in a lot of fear, where before you had faith and you felt like you were not resilient, but you felt like you were invincible, that nothing could bother you, that you was above everything. And sometimes because you could actually feel, sometimes you felt like you were actually like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of a sudden, one day, you no longer have that feeling again. You're looking over the side of your shoulder. You're hearing voices. You're hearing footsteps in the night. You can't sleep. You barely can eat. You don't know who's your enemy. You don't know who's your friend. You're looking at where before your finances were at the top, and now you're scraping the bottom, trying to make ends meet. So you're trying to figure out, how did I get here, while knowing how you got there.
Right.
That's the hard part, is having to face the responsibility.
There is a level of ego that we don't want to talk about. Like, but no, I'm a nice person. I don't have pride, because the definition of pride has so many definitions. Like, well, a narcissist is prideful, absolutely.
Yeah.
But an empath has an ego but I can fix them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not your job.
And we don't want to. And then our biggest thing is, we don't want to ask for help because we know better.
Because we got to fix them.
Yeah. And so, and what, in order for us to be able to ask for help, we're going to have to show that we were weak, that we dropped the ball.
Yo, let me just jump on this real quick. It is the one thing, I don't know about you, but it was the one thing where when you're detaching from a narcissist, it is the one thing that you don't want to do, because it is the one thing they cannot wait to throw in your face. Like, told you it was her, told you she was ruining my life, and you're just like, I just want to get my mind back.
Right.
and
Yeah.
you don't want to even admit it because you know they're going to throw it in your face. It's kind of like continuing sand in your eyes. But
Yeah.
what I can tell you is that is all temporary. Yes, they are going to do
Yeah.
that. And so that's why people are like, well, I don't want my business out there.
And you know
Because narcissists have to protect
yeah.
their image to where they have to be the victim. They have to
Right.
continually be hurt so that someone else replaces you with the, oh, are you okay? And then they find that person that will fix it for them. And now they will get to look at you like, well, you didn't get to fix it, but this person can
Right.
fix it. Well, that's only a matter of time.
And you know what? It was funny
That's only a
with
matter
the
of time.
situation when I was going through it. During the time I was doing the process, I was able to detach from a lot of relationships that were not good for me. So by the time I was coming around really telling the story, I was very selective to who I told the story to.
Mm-hmm.
So those that were around me were not only they were in shock, but I saw them mirroring my compassion.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Because I believe really what it was, they were just so shocked. Like, normally we come to you, whenever we have a problem or something like that, we come to you, but we didn't even realize you were going through all of this stuff and you were still there for us.
And then how dare you say you want help? Because then we're like, well, what did you do wrong?
Yeah, yeah. And so the thing about it is, but you know what I started doing? I started telling them, I did this, I did
Yeah,
this.
that's why I say, like, you got to call yourself out in order
Yeah,
to. You got to
yeah,
call it's something. I mean, yes, it's going to suck in the beginning, but that's short term. That's short term
of
thinking.
course, of
Long
course.
term is the most amazing peace you're ever going to
Yeah,
get in your life. And I can testify. You can testify.
yes.
Because once you get out of that, whew, and you come to that long term peace, by the time you're 40, 50, 60, 70, you still have that peace.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that I learned about this, I'm special, but I'm not above. I'm human.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a demigod or anything. I'm human. I'm capable of error. I learned to give myself a break at times. I don't have to be perfect.
All
I
right.
don't have to. I can you know what? I took the challenge and then all of a sudden I bought so many donuts and cookies and everything would kick my legs up. And at first I was like, oh, I cannot tell Zenaida. I cannot tell her. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling this. And then I started getting in my head, having all these thoughts, knowing, and you're like, are you walking? It was hard for me to tell you that
Mm-hmm.
because I know better. I started off, and the first thing you told me, put the jumpsuit out. I put it away. You said, give it 90 days. I was like, oh, I'll get this done in 30 days. You said, give it 90 days. So when it's all said and done, I was going to push myself. But what I had to learn about this, Rhonda, other people know more than you when it comes to certain things. You can receive from other people. She told you to give yourself 90 days. The reason why it was no cutoff, because some people, when they get started, they don't complete it because of the deadlines. And then if you got a person that you're pushing against your own ego and all kinds of stuff like that, your ego will tell you don't need this. But I
Mm-hmm.
was seeing results right away.
I'm
I
gonna do
was
it my way.
yeah,
I'm gonna do it my way. She don't
yeah.
know what she's talking about.
And one thing about it is we have to understand that that is a part of us, that we get in our own way. And the one thing, the story I liked about Samson, and I adopted that when he had his eyes burned out, he's locked up now. He doesn't have the power anymore. The first thing he said is, I'm sorry. I messed up. You put me down here for a reason, to
Mm-hmm.
avenge the people of the Philistines. I took and I used the gift that you gave me for my own personal use because I felt he was the first, we were talking about, he's the very first superhero ever. There was nobody
And
ever stronger than him or anything.
when when you started revealing the revelation of the hair,
Yes.
like that's because that was remarkable to me.
Okay.
I will tell you what this is what I was looking for this whole time. I haven't prayed in 17 years, right?
Yeah.
Then suddenly out of the blue, it was like, write this down. And I was like, oh. So go ahead and talk about your revelation over
Yeah.
here and
Well,
how you got out of it to
yeah.
restore. And I will share what this miracle happened in my life.
Okay. So what ended up happening is this. Last year I did a YouTube on selling my soul pretty much because that's what I did. I gave my mind, will, and emotions over to situations. And when God gave me the story of Samson, I realized in his story, hair grew back. And what that meant that, and as Samson's hair was growing back, his strength was coming back. It doesn't say how long it took for his hair to grow back. It just said it did. So in my own physical life, I used to wear, for all of that time, I literally had, I had not a nice set of, nice hair, but I
Uh-huh.
wore this long weave. Although it was long, and I would actually spend a lot of money on it. It was the best of the best, but I was like kind of in bondage to that for all those years. When I finally took my hair down my own self, it went from being down my back to up like to here to my ears.
Mm-hmm.
To literally, it was just cut. I mean, literally, my physical hair was disappearing. So when I really started getting that revelation, is like hair grows back. What does that mean? The revelation of that is, even though they shaved his head off, eventually it started growing back. So as the power, as you're working on doing your confessions, as you're doing your prayers, as you're doing all this other stuff, your hair or your power is coming back. You don't necessarily see it. Remember, Samson didn't have a vision. His eyes was out. He was locked up, so he couldn't touch his hair. But one day, they got ready to put him up on the gallows, and they were going to make fun of him. And they did not pay attention to the fact that Samson's hair had grown back. They had already forgot where his power came from. This man had his locks already grown back. They never paid attention. All the Philistines were there together. Samson said, God, give me strength one more time, and went supernova and destroyed for the very thing that he was given the power for. That's what he did. And what I realized is when I began to pray, God, I dropped the ball. I took for granted the fact that you gave me this. Let my hair grow back. Let the power come back. Let the ability to be able to do the things that I did before, let it come back. And slowly but surely,
Just
everything
like hair.
before.
Slowly but surely, just like hair.
But surely. That's the thing, because hair, if in the natural, when your hair grows, it grows an average of maybe a half an inch to an inch a month. And sometimes you got to cut back or whatever. So you're not gonna have hair down your back today and it goes up here tomorrow, and you get up tomorrow and your hair is gonna be back down here. Unless you add something to it. That's not gonna happen.
Right.
But slowly but surely, I started realizing that my health was coming back. But it came from the very thing that we're doing now, confessing to the fact we dropped the ball. We messed up.
I think you made a good point, like when you talked about the hair, like he wasn't touching it, he wasn't going
No,
back, he wasn't
no,
tampering, he was locked up. So
yes,
he allowed growth to happen naturally.
yes, yes,
So one of the things that to recover from these type of relationships is to allow it to, like, you have to allow yourself to grow,
yeah,
allow yourself to just to be reformed, and just don't touch it.
yeah.
Don't keep touching the situation no more.
Yeah.
You're not going to fix it.
Right. It's
Leave
not.
the situation alone. Let your hair grow back by like allowing yourself to be restored.
Yeah. Yeah. Because my biggest thing was like they said, when Samson, after he had his hair cut off, they used to bind him up and everything like that, and he'd wake up and do all this. He had big rocks and he would just pick up boulders and could throw them and everything. First superhero ever. That one day he woke up and he got ready to do it, and he couldn't do it again.
You will feel like a giant again. When you get knocked down, when an empath gets knocked down, oh, you will come back and grow up like
Yeah,
a giant,
yeah,
because you're going to realize, wait a minute, I'm back up. Now I know
yeah,
better.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just so you know, we're at 35 minutes already.
Are you serious?
So,
I mean, I'm telling you, this
so
is
all right, so yours was a revelation right here. I want to share mine real quick before we go, right?
okay.
So
All right.
mine was out of the random blue, write down this prayer. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I heard it loud as clear, and I heard it all the time. And then one day I decided to write it down. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's see what it says. Let me just start writing. And it says, Lord, hold my hand and guide me to complete your purpose.
Yes.
Help me and fill me with understanding that I need to move to complete the mission. Only you know the conversations that are being held behind closed doors. Remove anything and anyone heavy from my life that slows me down from completing my destiny that you ordained. I know it will hurt me, for I thought I knew what love is. Continue to show me what love is and expose me to the ones that really has my best interest and part of my purpose. That was July 2019. I was like, oh, this is a good prayer. I got an A team. You know, I got some good friends. I got some good friends. Man, that prayer, that was the most hurtful prayer I ever said in my life.
Yeah.
I even told God, like, yo, bro, what are you doing, man? Like,
yeah.
Whoa, I didn't mean it. Like,
right, exactly.
People away from me. Whoa, this was not the plan. And I'll even admit, when I was in Vegas in this sauna, I with my hands up in the air, and it just became like my discernment came stronger and stronger. And I thought it was punishment. And I remember with my hands in the air, like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you know what? Like, tell me, I got it. What are you doing?
Right.
Even though I had already had a breakdown back in April 2018, already begging him to help me to get out of this. And here I am thinking, I'm good now. I got friends. I finally feel happy here. Like, no. And I thought discernment was punishment.
Right.
But after all this, started unfolding, and I got my hair back, I got my power back, I got my strength back, I realized that discernment is protection.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so I since then repented, like, oh, you're right, you win. Now I'm all ears. Okay, what are you going to do next? What book do you want me to do next? What's
I heard a quote the other day, and it says, sometimes self-sabotage is self-protection.
Yeah.
You say, why do we sabotage everything? Have you ever thought about that you were being protected? That kind of happened to me in 2018. My mom was like, well, you need to put everything on the altar. I'm like, oh, Lord, okay, I'm going to put everything on the altar. Literally, I just made a whole altar. I got on my knees. And all of a sudden, oh, hell broke loose. I'm like,
well, I didn't mean it.
No. And it was just, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, I know I'm about to go for a ride because I know how you do it. You shave me, if you shave me bald. I look, just protect me while I'm going through it. Keep my mind while I'm going through it. And I have this book by Michael Pitts that says, help me, God is trying to kill me. And I was like, I bought the book because I felt God was trying to kill me. And when I read the book, when I read the chapters, it was like, he'll disconnect you from certain people. He'll disconnect you from certain situations. So he's trying to kill those things away from you that are not beneficial from you. I was like, no, I literally took it. God trying to kill me because
I had non-believers. I'm like thinking, like, yo, what is going on? Why is all this happening? And I had non-believers be like, that prayer.
Yeah, and people,
they saw it. They saw how real God was and removing the toxins out of my life. And I was like, what? That prayer. I was like, yeah. Like,
After
Whoa.
a while, I could no longer cry. Everybody around me was crying for me. They felt for me, but I was like, I know why I'm going through this. Lord, just give me the strength. I know, but guess what? I knew on the other side though, because you're going to go through certain times where you'll mess up. And the reason why I knew it was because I've been through things like this before. And
No, this was my first.
This is your first. So you're going to have many firsts. So you're going to get higher in this area. And then all of a sudden, it's like God is like, okay, now I got to do some breaking and things like that, because if you get too high, you'll no longer need me and you'll forget what your mission is.
Right.
So when you get up here, I'm going to prune you a little bit. And the pruning is going to hurt. And how I'm going to prune you is I'm going to allow, I'm not going to sin. I'm not going to make, I'm not going to cause, but I'm going to allow situations by your own hands to come into your life. And when they come into your life, this is how you're going to learn your lesson. And you'll be greater after on the other side. So
when I tell people like, nope, I'm done paying the price.
Yeah.
When we had the conversation when I was at your house, I was like, yep, what is it do I need to know? I'm done paying the price.
Yeah.
I am done paying price. Because, and you will hear me say that I am not smart in this situation.
Right.
The fact that it was all like blind faith. There's this thing inside of you that says, all right, go here, do this, do that, read this. And you don't know why, but you're kind of like listening because you're like, I have no idea what's going on, man. But then all of a sudden you just start following the directions that you're given. And then all of a sudden you just start seeing little nuggets, little like gold nuggets here and there. And then you're like, okay, so if I listen more, I'll get more nuggets, right?
Right.
Now you realize that this is where your faith becomes increased.
Exactly. And I remember, and you kind of have almost like a similar experience that I had. So I know where your life has got kind of headed. When I got ready to do my trial sermon, it was called "Nevertheless, Not My Will, but Thine Will Be Done." And it was on the story of Jonah, where Jonah had to go, and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to tell these people nothing. I don't want to do this. But nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. Then all of a sudden, you come up with this yes. Your yes is needed. That's no different than nevertheless, not my will, but thine will be done. You said yes. Whatever it is that you need me to do, okay, I need a yes out of you. So I'm going to have to break you in order to get that yes.
Right. It is. It really is, man. If you just really just let go of everything, and it sounds so cliche, and it's so like, oh, that's so easy. It really is, because once you just like, you win, here it goes. Yes.
Because according to Jeremiah 29:11, the thoughts I have for you are good and not of evil. So I know these thoughts for you that I have are good, but you got all these other prayers and these other thoughts that are not good. And other people got things for you. And like you said, there's things going in your prayer, things going on behind closed doors. People had other thoughts. We may not know what they were exactly saying, but God knew. I read a meme one time, and they said, the reason why people were removed from your life because you didn't hear the conversation, but God did.
Right. And
so you're wondering why. Well, God, why did they leave my life? Why did they disappoint me? Because I love you. And I heard what was going on. And I couldn't let you be hurt. And I remember praying and praying and praying. Lord, please fix this. Please fix this, fix this, fix this. I love you too much to fix this.
Right.
Some things you're going to disconnect from. You know what it brought you. So why do you want to stay connected to it anyway? And eventually what I did, is I
let your hair grow back.
Yeah, huh?
You let your hair grow back.
Yeah, I let my hair grow back. I was like, I'm defenseless. I can't fight it. I'm done. I'm exhausted. I can't do it. But I know greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I know if I allow you to let you work on me, all of a sudden hair is going to grow back.
Yeah,
and it did.
It will.
Naturally and spiritually.
Yeah. So for those watching, because we're at the 45-minute mark.
Oh, okay.
For those that are watching, look, that I don't think I'm ever going to make it out of here. Yep, that's a common feeling. We
Yeah,
both can relate. And the thing
you
is,
will.
like, me and her never had this discussion before. I didn't even
Never.
know that she was going through this. I don't even think she knew I was going through this, except for like the psych ward is kind of obvious. But
Yeah,
like,
me rocking in the middle of the bed. Nobody
right.
knew that
So,
until I had to
but
start telling
but
everybody.
there's one thing I will say that once you let go and you let your hair grow back,
Yeah,
that thing that you're fighting inside of you, like it's in you to become great. It's in you to
yeah,
become powerful. It will come out. It will
yeah,
come out, and you just have to know that. Remove your ego and remove your pride,
yeah.
and just pretty much let go and let God, and it will become so much easier and better.
You know, a lot of people's breakthrough right now is them admitting
That's
their
it.
fault,
Hmm.
admitting it. You know what? I quit. I not quit on life, but I quit holding this secret. I quit holding this shame. I quit holding this pride. I quit holding this ego. This very thing, your blessing is right here, but you got this big old boulder
Yep.
of pride that's protecting everything. But now everybody on the outside see you falling apart. So, but you believe you're hiding, but you're not. You're living out loud in front of everybody, but you
Mhm.
think you're hiding. You're like Wakanda. You're
Yeah.
hidden in plain. You're right there in plain sight.
Right. Real quick before we end. Before I broke down the first time, right? I thought I hit it very well. When when people started, like, when my professors, like, we knew like something was going on, take as much time as you need. I was like, wait a minute. When did you see that I was like not holding it together? When people know it before you do.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's not like you're hiding it well. People can see it. It's just they're waiting for you to say something.
yeah. But honestly, by the time people see it, that means it's bad.
It is.
Because we're good at camouflaging everything.
Mm-hmm.
But when it starts playing on the outside, that means it's gone beyond everything. When people, just regular people, they don't have to be empaths, they don't have
Nope.
to be pastors, they can
We
be just
carry it.
normal people.
Oh
When
yeah.
they can see it, that means you've gone to a point of no return. You better do something quick
Right.
because now you can no longer hide it. Yeah.
True.
But
So
we're on the rise. Hair grows back.
so
Power
so
comes back.
do empaths have powers? Yes, they do. But you have to know how to use them, and just know that you will rise back up. Your hair does grow back up. You will become a giant, and in the gift that you were given. And just know that your yes is needed all the time
Yeah. Yeah.
for your healing and for your next purpose in life. So just thank you for joining, and have a good night.
Good night.